Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to go from this to this by using spray paint. I want to paint these unpainted raw black plastic mirrors. The goal is to paint them in a glossy black. It's a color that I particularly like for mirrors. I will be using spray paint for this, and I'll show you all the steps I've taken. You can adapt this method to your own products and personal experience. So the first thing to do is to keep only the element to be painted and dismantle everything else. I completely disassemble the mirrors to keep only the shell to be painted. For those who think, I'll just paint directly on the plastic, it should work. Know that the layers deposited by spray products are very thin. Therefore, it is necessary to remove the roughness of the original plastic finish, which is about 0.5 millimeter thick, much thicker than the spray paint layer, which is about 10 micrometers. The sanding steps that follow are essential. Otherwise, you will have a really disappointing result, and your paint job will be ruined. Alright, let's get started with sanding. This plastic is clean, great. If you have a dirty surface, start by cleaning and degreasing it. In this case, it's new and clean, so I'll begin sanding. I start with 180 grit. Alright, here's what it looks like after sanding with 180 grit. What's important is that there are no rough spots left like this. The machine can't reach these areas. It's also important not to run the machine too fast. It's plastic, and if the machine spins too fast, it heats up. If it heats up, it melts, and if it melts, well, your piece is ruined. Now there's a spot where I can't reach. I did my best with the machine, and now I'll do it by hand. To see what we're doing more clearly, you can use a dusting aerosol. Sometimes plastic particles settle and cover a part that hasn't been sanded, giving the visual impression that it has been sanded. I have finished with the 180 grit, so now I'm going to move up to a finer grit. Since we're all painting with spray cans, it's important to know that spray products have less filling capacity than sprayable products for spray gun, which is why we'll need to do more sanding. For those who want to use a spray gun, I think a sanding like this will be sufficient with a highly filling primer. I remove the 180 grit and switch to 280 grit. Here I still can't reach some areas with the sander, so I'll sand by hand. I don't have 280 grit, so I'll use 320 grit. It's almost the same thing. I'm done with the 320 grit. Now the inaccessible micro scratches are even finer. I'll go one more step, sanding with 400 grit. Alright, I'm done with the sander. I'll finish these corners by hand with 400 grit. I've finished sanding the mirrors. Next step, we remove all the plastic dust, clean it with water, and optionally with a little dish soap. So here, the mirrors are almost dry and clean. There are no more plastic particles. The surface feels smooth to the touch. You may notice some scratches, but if you run your finger over them, you won't feel anything. So if you don't feel anything, it means they are not scratches. Now it's clear that when painting with a spray can, the can should be held almost vertically, slightly tilted like this or like that. But we can't hold it like this or like that. So what I did was use hot glue inside the mirrors. And then I placed plant stakes on a board. They are drilled and glued inside. I'm using wire for food packaging, and here, I can easily rotate the mirrors. The goal is to always have the correct angle for the spray can. Next, to remove any silicone residue, I'm using a special silicone remover cleaner. When using this type of product, it's important to wear gloves. I apply the product with a sponge. Now that our surface is sanded, secured, and properly degreased, we can apply the spray products. But before applying these products on raw plastic, it's crucial to make the surface adhere to them. When we look at the label of the first product we want to apply, it clearly states that the product adheres to wood, metal, and aluminum, but it doesn't mention plastic at any point. Without proper adhesion, you will quickly experience paint chipping, and the work will have to be redone. Therefore, we need to make the surface adhere to the products. For this purpose, we use a special adhesion primer for synthetic materials, which allows substances that don't adhere to plastics to adhere to them. Let's get started with 2 thin coats. When applying spray products, it's important to do so in a suitable atmosphere, meaning not too humid, dust-free, and without wind. Wind can be problematic because it will cause the spray to deviate, resulting in an uneven application. Dust or pollen can also settle on your surface. Another important factor is temperature. You should use the cans between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius. Personally, I also like to consider the humidity level. Here, I have a thermometer hygrometer. Indeed, it's a bit warm. I know this thermometer indicates 2 degrees higher, so I have a little over 25 degrees Celsius. But what's interesting is that I have 30% relative humidity. I recommend not exceeding 60% humidity because what will happen is that your can will spray the product on the surface, and it will be like blowing on a window. It will create condensation with the product mixed with fine water droplets. This will result in a disastrous outcome, and you'll ruin your product. Now I shake the can for 2 minutes. I position myself 30 centimeters away from the surface. I always start spraying outside the surface and then move onto the surface. With this particular product, it's not very intuitive because you can't see exactly where you've applied it. There's little difference once it's applied. Then I apply a second coat on the first mirror and a second coat on the second mirror. It's exactly the same process. There you go, the plastic primer is applied. The surface is slightly darker, but it's not very noticeable. Before covering it with anything else, you should wait at least 10 to 15 minutes. I've tried rushing it before, and it resulted in fish eyes in the next layer. So we wait for a good 15 minutes or even longer. In order to make the surface completely smooth, we could have sanded it even finer, 500, 800, 1000, 2000 for example. But this is very time-consuming, especially because plastic is a difficult material to sand. Therefore, we will fill in the irregularities caused by sanding with a filling product. I'm using a sprayable putty for this. I've tried using spray primer before, but I find that it doesn't have enough filling capacity, meaning it will run before filling in the sanding irregularities. Alright, let's apply the sprayable putty. It should be sprayed from a distance of 25 to 30 centimeters. Personally, I prefer to start with the edges first as they are more delicate. Then I move on to the flat surfaces. Here, we will first apply a thin coat, then a slightly thicker coat. Just keep in mind that if there are a few fine droplets on the surface, it's not extremely serious because this surface will be sanded later on. So, this is the first thin adhesion coat. The second coat will have more filling capacity. So here we need to create a wet coat without causing it to run. It's a bit more challenging. The putty that we've just applied has a rather granular finish, so now we need to sand it. Before sanding, there's a product that I really like, which is this. It's a control spray. We will apply a fine mist on both mirrors, and when we sand it like an eraser, we will be able to see exactly where we have sanded. So, the control spray is applied from a distance. A thin coat will give a slightly speckled appearance. We will know that we have sanded everything when the surface becomes completely white, with no traces of the control product remaining. One last thing, we can either cover or sand the putty 1 hour after application. Now we are ready to sand the putty. I'm using a 1000 grit sandpaper that is used with water. To sand with water, I have a clean basin with water and a little dish soap. I have a flexible sanding block that I can use, and here I have 1000 grit sandpaper. So I'll moisten it, and then we'll sand the mirror, erasing the black traces left by the sanding guide. We don't press too hard, it's the sandpaper that should do the work. Don't hesitate to moisten it a bit to see what has been done and what hasn't. Here are some traces or areas where it's clearer. With the sanding guide, we can see the areas where I've already sanded and where we shouldn't go over again. We'll avoid doing the edges because they are the most delicate parts. So for the edges, I'll only sand them once, otherwise, we might reach the plastic. If we see the plastic, it's not a big deal because there will still be some putty left, but it's best to avoid seeing it if possible, alright? I'll continue, and I'll see you afterwards. Alright, I've almost finished the first mirror. There's still a bit of foam. Firstly, there's no more sanding guide, and secondly, if you run your finger over it, instead of feeling roughness, it should be completely smooth. Once the putty is fully sanded, it's ready to receive the primer coat. It's recommended not to apply the paint directly on the putty. The primer coat applied before the paint will ensure good adhesion of the paint. So, the primer I'm using is this one. It provides some filling capacity, but much less than the putty. The application method is exactly the same as for the putty. A thin first coat followed by a slightly heavier coat without running. Let's get started. The first coat is applied. Now we will apply a slightly thicker coat without causing it to run. To apply it evenly, I recommend offsetting the spray by half its width. Here I'm applying more product. I want a glossy finish without any runs. There you go, the second coat is done. Let's check the reflection. It does have a bit of shine. To eliminate any irregularities in the primer, I decide to sand it very finely with 2000 grit sandpaper. I'll use the same method as for the putty, applying the sanding guide again. As for the primer, it can be sanded or covered with paint after 2 hours. Now the primer is completely dry, so I'll clean the mirrors a bit before sanding, and then let's get started. Again, we don't put too much pressure on the edges. There you have it, both mirrors are done. Normally there are hardly any traces left from the sanding guide, so we can notice that in certain areas, like here for example, I went a bit too far, and the sprayable putty is starting to show. As long as it remains in very small areas, it's not a problem at all. It won't prevent the paint from adhering. The important thing is to avoid having it on large surfaces. Alright, now we're going to be ready to apply the paint. In fact, when we paint something, the painting itself isn't the longest part. It's everything we do before. If the pre-painting steps aren't done properly, the result won't be great. Since this is the painting phase, I recommend having a small air can to remove dust or a compressor with a blowgun. And to remove embedded dust, I use tweezers. So here's the paint. It's high gloss black. Let's go, shake it for 2 minutes. You may notice that I dampened the floor. It reduces the dust that settles on the piece. We're going to do 2 coats. First, a thin coat, and then the finishing coat. And if, like here, you have a bit of wind, we stop because it's not possible to paint with wind. We'll stop there for this piece, so we have a very thin coat, and we can see that it's not completely black yet. This is the adhesion coat for the finishing coat that will follow. I'll do the other mirror. I won't show it, and I'll meet you afterward. It's done, and now we move on to the finishing step. This is by far the most challenging part. The goal is to make it shine without running. So the idea is to look at the reflection. You look as if you're looking into a mirror, and as soon as the mirror effect appears, you need to go further. You slow down the motion until you achieve a mirror-like effect. Once the mirror effect is achieved, you move further. There are different types of nozzles. They come in different sizes. Here, I'm going to use the smallest nozzle. The advantage is that it sprays less, so you can be more precise, but you need to be at 3 centimeters distance. This allows you to be closer to the piece and move more slowly, and I find it easier, but it takes more time. So the application of the paint is complete. Already we can see the defects. Some runs here and some roughness there. Well, the dust seems to be going away now, I believe. The dust is going away, which means we are dust-free. A dust-free paint is when dust lands on it but doesn't stick. However, there's something that bothers me more, but we'll fix that. Look at the reflection of my lamp. So we agree that it's shiny, but you see the reflection is not sharp. That's what we call an orange peel effect. With spray paint, it's almost unavoidable. It means the surface isn't perfectly smooth. It has tiny waves. For me, it's out of the question to have that on my car. I think it looks ugly. So what we're going to do is wait for it to dry completely. Since it's air drying paint, it doesn't dry very quickly. How do we know if it's dry? Well, it's simple. We sniff it, and if it smells like something, then it's not dry. So it can take several days. We'll meet again later to see how to smooth it out. Alright, the mirrors are completely dry. To be sure, just give it a sniff. It shouldn't smell like anything at all. The solution I have in mind, since I don't want to leave it as is on the car, is to do what we call sanding and polishing. I'll sand the paint with a very fine grit, and then we'll polish it. It's wet sanding, so I'm using a clean basin free of dust. I can add some dish soap, and let's get started with the sanding. I'll use 3000 grit sandpaper. We wet the paper well, and then we start sanding. Here I have the part with the run. The idea is to achieve a completely smooth surface. Now, if I want to see the result at any point, I need to dry it. So I take a microfiber towel with no dust particles in it, and I dry it. Alright, I still see some traces here. Of course, the gloss is gone, but that's not important. What's important is for the roughness to disappear. I still see a bit of roughness here, so I'll sand a bit more in that area. Indeed, dealing with the run is a bit more challenging, but it can be fixed. There you go. This is where the run was, and it has become completely smooth. It's smooth but has become matte. That's normal. The sandpaper makes the finish matte. Now we'll do the same thing on the entire surface of the mirrors to achieve a matte finish like this, and we'll meet again later. Now the mirror is matte, and we can still see a few small shiny spots. It feels super smooth to the touch. Here, where I had the run, if like me I sanded too far and see the primer, there's no choice. I have to apply paint to the area again, let it dry, and sand it again. So here I have a surface that is quite matte, completely smooth to the touch, and I haven't exposed any primer, which is good. That means I don't need to paint anymore. I can detach the mirrors from the structure there, and then we'll move on to the polishing step. Polishing is done with a polisher. I use this one. We apply polish to the disc, and I use this polish. I set it to the maximum speed, and here we go. Alright, some paint has come off there. I'll use a microfiber cloth to check the surface condition. And here comes the surprise. The surface is super shiny. So we can proceed to do the mirrors entirely like this. Look, we can see the lamp reflection here. Here it's not done. And here it's done. Now in the hard-to-reach corners where the machine can't reach, we'll do it by hand, so I use an applicator pad. We need to do the same thing. And here we need to rub well until it shines. Let's see how it looks with the microfiber cloth. There we have a shiny appearance. We continue, it's a bit matte here. There you go, I've finished the mirrors. This is what it looks like. Now the next step is to reattach the mirrors and install them on the car. And overall, this is how it looks on the car. So here we are in the sunlight. Shaded side. That's it. This video is now complete. I believe that by giving it more care, you can achieve better results than me. If you're interested, I've listed the products I used in the description. Obviously, the method I use is not the only one. It depends on the products used, but especially on your own experience. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, give it a thumbs up, or share this content if you liked it. I wish you successful spray painting applications, and see you soon on Enjoy Wheels.